black and white cows, you see a purple cow. What do? You slam on the brakes, you run out of the car, you start taking pictures, put it on Instagram, telling your friends, telling everybody, and then because you're going to be a millionaire, you try to abduct it, shove it in your back seat, and sell it on eBay. That's what you do if you see a purple cow. That's the conversation we're having. A purple cow would be truly remarkable, would it not? Indeed. So the conversation we're having is, what does it take to create a purple cow in Boulder? And so we just recently started, and we're building a team and having a conversation. And so be flexible with empty rooms, and actually our team is killing it, so there's no glitches tonight, so props. And so be flexible if I say something stupid. But as we build our team and grow together, one of the conversations we're having is, what does it take to create a purple cow in Boulder? And here's what we're really asking. It's this: what does it take to create a church that is truly remarkable and worth talking about? Specifically to an audience and a generation that maybe is not interested in anything church-related whatsoever. And so Seth Godin wrote this book called Purple Cow. It's kind of where the premise came from. And he gave us this quote I want to give you. He said that remarkable products are often controversial and outrageous. And he asked this question: what would a really controversial and outrageous version of your product look like? And so as we're having this conversation, we actually want to invite you into this with us, because we don't think we have everything figured out. We simply want to go on this journey together with you. And so Jesus was both controversial and outrageous in the way that he loved, in the way that he engaged people, in the way that he engaged the world around him, the way that he talked about a relationship with God. Everything that Jesus brought to the table was just blowing people out of the water. They were like, how can you do that? And last week we looked at Jesus in particular as the original purple cow. Now, what's unique about a church versus a business is not like we're trying to sell the next Apple iPhone or a product that everybody's going to want. We have something unique. We're not trying to sell or market a product. We are trying to communicate about a person, right? So Jesus really changes the conversation of what a church is about and really what that love can look like in the world around us. And so Jesus, what was unique last week we looked at Jesus and we just said, hey, what makes Jesus a purple cow, and what can we learn from that? And at the end of the day, we said that Jesus, what's amazing about him is that Jesus is God pursuing you and me, and our neighbors, and our friends, and our coworkers, and the homeless guy at the bus stop, and the lady that checked you out at Safeway. And Jesus is God pursuing humanity. All other world religions, it's humanity pursuing the divine. Only in Christianity is God pursuing us. It's pretty remarkable. And so then we took a step back and said, okay, Jesus was definitely remarkable, started a movement, and one of the most famous people in the entire history of the planet. But then the early church was also pretty remarkable. And what's crazy is somehow we transition, and now when people hear church, when they start thinking about religion, it's not remarkable, right? It's everything but remarkable. Most churches, people are like, oh no, I don't want anything to do with that. Lots of bad experiences, lots of boring stuff, lots of not helpful life experiences. And so then we're asking, okay, what did the early church have? What was going on there that was remarkable, and what can we learn from them? And so this week, we're kicking off kind of the conversation of looking at the early church and what we can learn from them. And so 4 things that we see in the early church that we're going to look at here in a second, 4 things that we believe God has wired us to do differently than 10,000 other churches. We're not having a conversation about being better than another church. It's just, what do we do differently? 4 things that carry the potential to make us a purple cow. 4 things that can influence how we help people find their way to God from where they are. And guys, listen, 4 things that are not possible without you. You're a huge part of this conversation. So I want to show you this verse in Acts chapter 2. Let me show you this. This is the early church right after Jesus rose from the grave, showed up for 40 days, and then ascended into heaven. This is what's happening. The early church, his followers, they were devoting themselves to the apostles. The apostles are some of the early church leaders, to their teaching and to fellowship, that's hanging out together and playing Xbox, to the breaking of bread and to prayers. And awe came upon every soul. You ever been in awe of something? Like this is awesome, right? Like I was in Disneyland, and when I went to Cars World, it was like awesome, right? Like, Okay, so there was awe happening, you with me? And many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles. And all who believed, all the people that called themselves followers of Jesus were together, and they had all things in common. And they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds to all as any had need. And going on, it says in verse 46, that day by day, attending the temple together and breaking bread in their homes, they received their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord was adding to their number day by day those who were being saved. And so this is kind of our core text for the next 4 weeks. We see 4 things in here that are going to help us have this conversation. And so I have a picture of a cow for you. I wanted you to show this, okay? This is just imagine a cow with no legs, okay? And I want you to think about the 4 things we're going to talk about as the 4 legs of our cow. Now, real quick, what do you call a cow with no legs? Ground beef. I've been waiting all week to use that. All right, that's so funny. All right, so out of the 4 things, the first leg we're talking about today is, it's really hard to see, but radically generous. One of our values is that we're radically generous. Here's what we mean by that. I'm going to stick it up on the screen for you. So the first leg we're looking at is radical generosity. Generosity, this is how we define it. This is what we think can help us be a purple cow in Boulder. And when we say this is lifestyle conversation, it's not stuck in any one category. It's not, hey, we're generous with only our finances. It's everything. Generosity is about giving more than what is required. We see generosity as a privilege. We're generous with our time, gifts, and resources. God has given richly toward us, and it's our honor to give back to him. We are managers of this life that he's given us, not owners. So this is how we define generosity, and I want you to know, guys, listen, we model it from the top down. It's why we're giving away $5 in your honor for being in the room. It's why we're doing a bunch of really cool stuff this week, like Monday and Tuesday, we're serving the homeless shelter in North Boulder. We're giving away free coffee on campus. We're cleaning bathrooms for local businesses on Pearl Street during the day just to serve them. We are throwing a free sponsored event at the Bounce Place where we're just going to pay for people's entry fee with no agenda, just, hey, we're here to love you and serve you. And so I want you to know that we take this value very seriously because we think God is generous. We want to model that love well. And what we want to do is invite all of us into this conversation that while from the top down this is important, we also get to model this individually. And when we do it individually and corporately, there's something cool that can happen. And so are you guys with me on this conversation? So the first leg today is radical generosity, okay? Right now we have a lopsided cow. It's okay. He's going to get better, all right? So are we on the same page? All right, let's transition to our conversation around generosity today. Here's what I know about everyone in the room. Everyone, no matter where you came in today, no matter where you are on your spiritual journey, whether you're a follower of Jesus or not, everyone in the room wants joy. Everyone in the room wants joy. I hate being joyful, said no one ever, right? Never. Now, I don't know where you are, but if I'm being real, there's moments when I've like misplaced my joy, you know, like, where did I put that? and Danielle is never my wife. She's never been mad at me for being joyful. Like if you think about your life, your friends, your significant other, your roommates, your coworkers, your neighbors, your family, like none of them are going to be mad at you if you're more joyful this week, right? I mean, there's some people who are just Debbie Downers, right? They're like, oh, could you stop being so joyful? But they just suck the wind out of everything, so ignore them. But everybody else, right? Like my wife would sincerely appreciate it if I was more joyful. And unfortunately, I misplace that joy sometimes, and she could probably tell you a story or two about how I could use a little more of that. And so I don't know where you are in this conversation, but ironically, the church is a place that seems to be severely lacking joy. How many of you guys have ever met a grumpy religious person? Come on, just anybody. All right, just look around for a second. Okay, yeah, everybody has met a grumpy religious person. And you look at those people and you're like, well, whatever you have, I don't want it, right? Because if it makes you like that, that's not for me. That's not what I'm interested in. And so how is it that we're going to have a conversation around joy and Jesus is going to invite us into that, and then church is one of those places that seems to be lacking it severely. Here's what I think happens. This is really, really pivotal for our conversation today. I think religion takes what should be family and turns it into business. Okay, hear me out. Business. Business is I'm going to show up and I'm going to put the least amount of effort and energy in to get the most out of it, right? I'm going to put the least amount in to get the most out. That's the business world. That's the consumer mindset, right? You with me? So religion has taken it and said, hey, come and be a consumer, put the least amount in for the most benefit, check off your to-do list of things that you've got to do to feel better about yourself this week, and then go on about your day. That's what religion has done, is it's turning into business. When originally, Jesus is inviting us not into religion, but a relationship and a family. Jesus uses family language all the time, talking about God as a father, and we're his kids. And so I want you to imagine like a mom waking up in the morning and she says, okay, what do I have to do? How do I put the least amount of effort, the least amount of work, the least amount of time and energy into my kids today to get the most out of them? Right? That's not, I mean, unless you're absolutely dying, I guess there's a day that could happen. I might have been there once or twice. But that's not really how family's supposed to work, right? Now, we're dysfunctional at times. We come from dysfunctional backgrounds, so that's understandable that it happens. But we know what a healthy family should look like, even if we haven't experienced it. And so what does a family do? It's not a consumer mindset. It's a contributing mindset. It's how can I give? How can I help? How can I serve? How can I contribute? How can I love? How can I invest? It's all about giving, is it not? Right? What makes a family so beautiful is that you're there for each other. And so I think the reason that a church is severely lacking in joy most of the time is because we've allowed religion to creep in and say, let's make it a business transaction rather than a family that you live life with. And this is hopefully why you walked in, you saw the sign that said, hey, welcome to your home away from home. Because this is a family that you're invited into. So what if I told you that today's conversation will help every single one of us in the room, regardless of where you are on your spiritual journey, take next steps, take a practical step in living a life full of joy and a purpose? Are you interested in that? Yeah. Good. If someone said no, I was going to say let's go home, so that's good. I'm glad you guys are interested. Me too. Okay, so how many of you love to give gifts? How many of you love to give gifts? Awesome. A couple of gifts. Pay attention to who's raising their hand because you can go hit them up on your birthday, right? Daniel's birthday today. Woohoo! I love to give gifts. It's one of, like, I love to get gifts too, if I'm being honest. But I do love to give gifts. Yesterday I was at Safeway, and they have like the clearance section, and they had some cereal on sale for 50% off. And I'm like, oh yeah, let's get some cereal. And they had Paw Patrol cereal. It was like Kix with Paw Patrol on the front. That's really all it had going for it. It wasn't anything cool at all. But my little boy, Grayson, he's 3 years old. He loves Paw Patrol. And so, the first thing, I got to get this cereal for Grayson. Why? Because I can't wait to see his face because he does this. Oh, man, it's so cute. I get home, and I give him this box of cereal, and he goes, oh, my goodness. Like, he's got this super cute, like, melt your heart thing, and I'm like, yeah, I'll get you another box of cereal, man. So how many of you guys have heard the saying that it's better to give than to receive, right? And that's probably pretty consistent. You might even have experienced that at times to where you feel that. But can we just acknowledge that that's not true for a 3-year-old? Right? It's not true for a 5-year-old probably, right? Everyone's seen the Christmas scenario when the 5-year-old gets his dad a pair of socks, right? Here you go, Dad. Oh, thanks, son. Was he overflowing with joy? Not really. What is he excited about? Opening his presents, right? Like, there's some immense joy that comes out of a 5-year-old and tearing into some wrapping paper, right? In fact, Grayson actually, I think, is more excited about opening presents than what's inside of them at this point. So next year, I'm just wrapping rocks. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to do. But I love watching my kids open their gifts. It gives me a lot of joy. And I don't know, have you ever noticed how like a grandma like looks when have you ever watched grandma when she's watching like grandkids or kids open their presents, right? Like so I have a lot of joy when I get to give to friends and family and watch that happen. But then grandma's got like some next level joy going on, right? Like my Nana texted me this week with a picture of like 2 little kids' chairs, and they got like dinosaurs on them, and Grayson loves dinosaurs. And she's like, you guys have room for these? And I'm like, so random, Nana. But yes, we do, right? Like, absolutely we do. And she is always thinking about giving because it gives her immense joy. There's something about grandma lighting up when she's watching those kids open their gifts, right? Why? Because when you give, you experience joy, right? You with me on this conversation? And so I want to bring us into a conversation of the more that we give, the more joy we're going to experience. But first, let me start with this. Here's the first point. Ready? God is a giver. I don't know what you came in with in your experiences and your background and your understanding or belief in God, whether you believe God exists at all or you've been around religion that makes God kind of a hateful, kid with a magnifying glass, kind of a spiteful God. But I want you to know first and foremost that God is a giver, not a taker. God loves to give. We don't have to even beg God to give. The Bible describes him as a good father who wants to give his kids good gifts. And so I don't know what you came in with, but every other religion, God is a taker. The divinity is a taker. You go to any other world religion, and it is about taking. In Christianity, it's the only God that gives as the initiator. So a couple of verses. You might have heard this verse before. If you haven't, it's okay. One of the most famous verses in the entire Bible over all of the world, and it's this, John 3:16, that God so loved the world, he loved you and me, and our neighbors and our friends and our coworkers, that he gave his only son. You see the disposition? God loved the world and he gave his son so that no one would perish but have everlasting life. God is a giver. Jesus, you can watch the story of Jesus, and as he's living his life, he communicates and lives consistently, hey guys, I came not to be served, but to serve. There's this disposition of the heart that God carries as a giver first and not a taker. Let me show you a verse here in Ephesians chapter 2. This is really important because the rest of this conversation, if we don't get this part right, then what you're going to hear is give, and you're going to think that the church is a taker. And I want you to know that my goal today is about empowerment, about your joy. And so in Ephesians chapter 2, it says that God saved you by his grace. That word, it means giving. It's a gift. It's something that you don't deserve. Grace, when you believed. He's talking to some followers of Jesus here in this book, and he says, you can't take credit for this because it's a what? It's a gift. There it is again. And over you're going to see this heart of God to give. Salvation is not a reward for the things that we have done like it is in some other world religions. So none of us can boast about it. Jesus paid it all. We get to cash in his report card, right? Like it's his grades up against ours. And he says that we don't have to, that way we can't boast. We are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Jesus so that we can do the good things that he planned for us long ago. So here's the big idea, right? God loves to give. He's a giver. He's given us Jesus. He gave his son for us. He's given us himself. It's a relationship. It's not a religious transaction. It's not a business. It's a family. And then also God gives us gifts. So you might ask the question, okay, great. God's a giver. Thank you very much. But what does that actually mean? Like, how does God give? What does he give? What does God want to give me today? You ready for this? Point number 2. God wants to give you. You. Like some deep music that just came on right there. God wants to give you. Listen, you need to hear this. You are a gift. You, as an individual, we just read it in Ephesians 2, are a masterpiece. And you are a gift that God has made on purpose and for a purpose. And so some of you, maybe you've never heard that. Maybe you never heard that you are a gift. And I want you to know, listen, you have gifts. You're talented and you bring a lot to the table and you can make a difference in the world. But before you do anything, I want you to know, listen, you are a gift. And God wants to give you. Why? Because you are a gift to others. For example, Danielle and I have been married for 8 years. And Danielle gives some good gifts, okay? Just if you want to get on her good side, she knows how to give some really good gifts. But she understands me because I'm a quality gift person, not a quantity gift person. You know what I'm saying? Like I'd rather have one awesome, super cool gift than a bunch of things I didn't ask for. You with me? And she knows that about me, and so she gets me the stuff that I enjoy. But you know the best gift that Danielle has ever given me? Herself. The best gift that Danielle has ever given me is Danielle. Why? Because she is a gift. And you need to understand, guys, listen, God wants to give you because you are a gift to those around you, to your coworkers and your friends and your neighbor and your family. You are a gift. And so as you get older, I think you start to realize this, right? When you have family gatherings and you go to Thanksgiving and you go to Christmas and you're around lots of family, if you get the chance to do that, then the real value in that is being around other people, isn't it? Unless you have a crappy family, then I guess that's not the case. But The ideal circumstance is you get to be around other people. Why? Because they're gifts. You get to see them and enjoy their presence. And so the older you get, you start to realize this, but here, I'm going to give you a free one, okay? The next birthday party you go to, show up, tell them happy birthday, and say, hey, listen, I got you, me. You're welcome. I am such a gift to you. Daniel, happy birthday. I got you myself today. You're so welcome. You are a gift. Now listen. You are a gift and you are gifted. Okay, this is really important. You are a gift first. I just want the identity aspect to seep in for you, okay? That Jesus said that you're valuable not because of what you do, because you're made in God's image and you're invited into a relationship with him. But you are also gifted. There's not another one of you on the planet. There's not another one of you that's been wired the way that you are, both natural gifts, and if you're a follower of Jesus, both supernatural gifts. There's not another one of you on the planet. You're going to hear me say this often. Everyone is a 10 at something. No one is a 10 at everything. That's why we need each other. Let me read you this passage. Romans chapter 12. Paul's writing to the church in Rome, and he says this. He says, just as our bodies have many parts and each part has a special function, so it is with the body of Christ, the church. That's what he's talking about. He says, we are many parts of one body, and we all belong to each other. And so I told you about this idea of family. And another metaphor he's going to use is a body, right? You know how important your big toe is? Right? You lose that bad boy, you are going to struggle to walk in a straight line. And he's saying every part has value, no matter what part of the body you are. And I want you to know, listen, you're invited into the family. You're invited into the body because you carry value. Check this out in verse 6. Go back. In his grace, God has given us different gifts. God is a giver. He wants to give you. And he has given you gifts for doing certain things well. God made you as a masterpiece to contribute things that no one else on the planet can. Check this out. He goes on to just give us some examples. He says, so if God has given you the ability to prophesy, speak out with as much faith as God has given you. That might be a weird word if you've never been around Jesus or church or the Bible. Then we can talk about that one later, right? So just ignore that one, okay? Verse 7, if your gift is serving, then serve well. If you're a teacher, teach well. If your gift is to encourage others, be encouraging. This is like pretty practical, right? Like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, if it's giving, give generously. Oh man, right? Like I think some people are like, why did I get the gift of giving? That one stinks, right? Always giving my stuff away. If God has given you leadership ability, then take that responsibility seriously. If you have a gift for showing kindness to others, do it gladly. I don't know how you show kindness ungladly. Here, take it, right? I don't know what that looks like, but don't just, listen, this is amazing. It's so proud. Don't just pretend to love others. Really love them. You're like, wow, that's deep right there. That's really monumental truth. Wow. Paul's trying to help us understand you're a gift for a purpose, and your gift has an outlet, and it's other people. God invites you and I into a relationship with him and into his family. And then he turns around and empowers his kids. He invites them to work with us, with him, to then go use our gifts to love other people into the family of God. It's really that simple. And it's beautiful. And it's more than just making a difference. It's finding out that you actually have a purpose in this life. Here's my last point. If you want joy, then give. If you want joy, we already established everyone in here wants it. If you want joy, then give. You say, how do I do that? What way should I give? Everyone in here, listen, let me give you some practical steps, okay? We're going to close out with this idea. Everyone in here has a mixture of natural talents, right? Some of you are good with hammers. Some of you are good with your hands. Some of you are just crazy number crunchers. Some of you are crazy good with people. Some of you are great in the kitchen. If you are, come over for dinner tonight, okay? Some of you are crazy artistic, or you got that feng shui thing going where you can decorate a room, right? Some of you have musical ability. Some of you don't. Truth hurts, okay? But you need to know it, okay? All of us have different natural abilities. Some of you are teachers and researchers, and you're very intellectual, and some of you are feelers and doers, and you like to work with your hands, and you have natural talents. And again, maybe you didn't know, but man, I want you to know you're gifted. And every single person you run into this week, I want you to remember they're gifted too. They're created in the image of God as a masterpiece. And so you say, how do I help? How do I give? If you want to be a part of the family, if you want to bring this purple cow idea to Boulder and love in a big way in and outside of the church, you have two sets of gifts, natural and supernatural. If you're not a follower of Jesus, then you don't yet have supernatural gifts, but that's something that God gives to his kids when they become a part of the family of God. And listen, here's the deal. We're not going to take the time to try to get in and explain all of that. There's another time and conversation for that. Here's the deal. Whatever gifts you have, natural, supernatural, whatever, you can use them for good. You can use them to make a difference. And so you say, what's my gift? How do I know? What do I do? Honestly, trial and error works great, right? You start trying some stuff and people will be like, hey, that's not your thing, right? Like you think, oh, I'm really good at painting, and then no one asks you to ever come back again and paint. Or you're like, oh, I'm really good at cooking, and no one ever asks you to cook again. Or you're like, oh, yeah, you know what? I think I can sing, and then no one ever asks you to cook. Like, maybe not. So trial and error is a great one. Actually, it's really ironic. I'll just give you a personal example, okay? So I'm the pastor of City Church. That word pastor literally means shepherd, to care for those that God has put around me and under me. And ironically, I don't have the gift of shepherding. So I'm literally not gifted in the thing that my title communicates. You know what that means? Is that I'm really, really bad at like that intimate side of caring. Unless I'm really intentional, it's just not my natural gifting. And you say, wow, how do you know that? Because lots of people have told me that I suck at it, okay? That's how I know. I didn't just assume that, right? In fact, I can't tell you how many times people say, Drake, you're going to be a pastor. You've got to get this shepherd thing figured out. I'm like, I tried, and it's just not in me. You know what the answer is? I'm going to find other shepherds, and I'm going to empower them to do what I can't do. That's the beauty of the body, because I know what my gifts are. You know what? I started to figure out, hey, you know what? I can talk. Well, people kind of like to listen to me. Listen, you don't get to say if you don't like to listen to me right now, but probably sometimes, okay? There's certain things I'm good at. I'm like, hey, let's press into those things. And so trial and error for you. Tap into it, figure it out. Say, okay, what am I good at? Let me give you a sweet spot diagram real fast. So this is really just practical stuff, okay? I'm just trying to give you some really, really practical things. If you sign up for the growth track on your Connect card with that letter G, we go through this in depth, and this is how we work on empowerment, understanding who God's made you to be, and then helping those gifts come alive. But the intersection of your passions, opportunities, and gifts is what we're going to call your sweet spot. Everyone's a 10 at something. God has wired you. He's wired you to bring something to the table that no one else can. Anybody ever swung a hammer before, right? Anyone ever hit a finger, right? I can remember when I was 10 years old, my dad was letting me help him build a shed. I couldn't swing a hammer. You know, like when you're scared of the hammer, you do that little, right, really like easy tap. I want you to think of your gifts like when you first started to use a hammer as a kid, right? You're not great with it. You got a bunch of bent nails and you know, you didn't even put the nail in the right spot, and you got to pull it back out, and you smashed a few fingers, and it takes forever, and then your dad's over there just like, boom, 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 and you're like, man, that guy knows how to use a hammer. I want you to picture this. God is a good dad inviting his kids into the work that he's already doing. And he already knows that there's some areas in our lives where we're not great at swinging hammers. He's given us some gifts that we've got to use and cultivate and get better at. But you know what? Over time, you get better at using those hammers. And so listen, if you want joy, then give. You say, I don't know where to start. Just start somewhere. There's grace in the middle. You start to look. You say, man, what am I passionate about? What do you get excited about? What fires you up? That might be an indicator. What are your gifts? What talents has God given you? Natural, supernatural, whatever. What are you good at? And opportunities. What has God put in your path? Maybe a job that you have, a neighborhood that you live in, the school that you go to, the classes that you're in. You start looking at all of that, and you might say, man, there's some purpose in this that God has already put together. Let me give you a few examples, and I'll close with this. Where's Mad-Eye? Mad-Eye right here. Okay, this is Mad-Eye, Moody, okay? And she's not actually Moody. It's just there's too many Maddies in here. We got to figure out how to talk to each of them. So Mad-Eye is in charge of our social media game, by the way. You guys give her a hand because that's awesome. She's really on top of it. So good. And, man, she's really gifted to do that well and consistently, and we're grateful for her contribution. But you know what's ironic? This week, we actually met yesterday, And we sat down, and she's like, hey, I'm kind of concerned about some shepherding aspects. Like, I feel like we could do a better job of shepherding people. And I'm like, how ironic that you clearly have the gift of shepherding. And so we actually have a conversation of, hey, Maddie, I suck at this. Let me empower you in your gift, because clearly you have a heart to care for people. So listen, you need a shoulder to cry on, and you need someone who's going to love you and help you kind of like take some baby steps. Maddie's where it's at. Don't come to me, right? Like, I swing hammers hard, okay? Like, you know, it was really cool. I'm like, wow, Maddie's gifted to be a shepherd. Danielle, my wife Danielle, right? She's singing. She's got a natural talent to sing. Way to go, babe. She's absolutely wrecked it. So good. I love to listen to Danielle sing, right? So she's got a natural talent. You know what else she's good at? She's got the gift of hospitality. You come into my house, I'm going to be like, hey, there's the fridge, there's the cabinets with some snack. Like, just help yourself, right? And that's my hospitality, right? She's going to serve you like you're a VIP at the nicest hotel in the nation, right? I mean, can I get you this? Can I get you this? And she is like the queen of hospitality and making you feel like family and at home. She also has the gift of empathy, right? She can feel what you feel. She can get into your shoes and meet you where you are, right? I didn't even know that word existed, right? Like, that's how far from that gift I am. And so I started looking like, whoa, look at the gifts that these people have. Where's Albert? Albert. Oh, he's in the back in the booth. Albert, he's got that nice beard, okay? Couple of things. The other day I came to Albert and I was like, hey man, we got these banners to hang. Like, what do we do? And I'm like freaking out. I'm like, I don't know. I'm so confused. I can't. And then like within 30 seconds, he's got a plan. He's like, hey, how about we just do this? And I'm like, mind blown, right? He's like a directional operations manager and good at organizing for work anyway. He's got some natural talents. And then he figures out how to hang all these banners outside with like ease. And I'm like, you are so amazing at this. And also you have the gift of a Care Bear. You're just huggable and lovable, right? Oh no, they're not in here. Dan and Brittany are two of our team members. They work at the university and with local elementary schools. They have the gift of teaching. You know what Brittany's doing right now? Teaching your kids. How cool is that? Using her gift. Jody, where's Jody's right back here. Jody has the gift of serving and hospitality. Now listen, there's a difference. Everyone can serve, right? But the gift of serving is different. Because I'll probably just complain about it the whole time I'm doing it. Jody is a boss, man. Like, she shows up and she's got so much initiative. She just serves and hospitable and takes things and so listen, all the hospitality that you experienced when you walked in, the coffee and the beautiful spread and all that's Jody just being a boss at what she does. And so I just want you to see, here's what's really cool. The reason I gave you those examples is none of those people work for a church. They're just normal people using their gifts to make a difference in and outside of the church. So here's the big idea. If you want joy, give. I love giving the gift of me. It's truly a joy for me to do this with you right now. This is a way that I can serve you by encouraging you and challenging you. I love giving the gift of me to my wife, to my kids, to my neighbors. When we started City Church, we were moving to Boulder, and we knew that if we're going to be able to love and serve our neighbors, if we're going to connect relationally and make a difference in the city, we're going to have to live here. You know what's really hard about living in Boulder? It's expensive, right? We're like, how are we going to love and serve neighbors that we don't live next to? The answer is you're not, in case you're wondering. And so we were really, we wanted to move to Boulder and give ourselves to this community. Our whole family had this heartbeat, and our team continues to carry it. And so you know what God did? He provided a way for us to own a home in Boulder, which is a miracle in and of itself, not because we make a lot of cash, just for the record, but because God provided an incredible, incredible way for us to live right up the street in the middle of tons of families, tons of young professionals, in the heart of Boulder, to say, man, we can give ourselves. And so the question for you and I is, how can we give ourselves to those around us? Listen, I want to encourage you, give the gift of you. Give the gift of you to everyone around you, to your neighbors, to your friends, to your family, to your coworkers. I mean, just think about it. You are a gift in every circumstance. And if you will give, I think you and I will experience more joy. We're going to continue to find our purpose, and I think collectively, if we will adopt this heart pattern, we can create something truly remarkable in Boulder. Will you bow your heads with me?